and you will really know where you sit. God has chosen to call out a people, whether you know that or not, for himself. All right? For himself. His eternal purpose is for them to come, those who he has called out for himself, to come to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Now, these called out ones, and I hope you're one of them, these called out ones are people who are an extension of his kingdom in earth. All right? And his throne in earth. And these called out ones, saints of God, are God's only legal representations on planet earth. The called out ones are the only legal ones. Everybody else is trespassing and is activated on an illegal visa, if you will. A people that has been called out and chosen by him are a people that follow his destiny and bear his name and his image and his nature. You get that? Somebody said some while ago, everybody for a minute there everybody was looking for their purpose. I think it was called a purpose-driven life. Everybody was trying to find out what their destiny was. I'm here to tell you that the only destiny that any of us ought to have is the destiny that the Father has chosen for you. That's right. If it ain't his destiny, that's the destiny that you don't want.
That's right. That's right.
I'm reminded of an author, Max Lucado. He wrote a book, and he entitled that book, "It's Not About Me." And I encourage you to read it. He asked a series of questions, and I'm going to propose these questions to you, and I want you to think about them because they're very thought-provoking questions. One of the questions he asked, he said, what would change if we finally found our place and lived it? He says, for our entire lives, we have been urged to look out for number one. You know how you've been told? You were told that. I was told that. You better look out for yourself. And we've been told to find your place in life and soak it up and take it all for what it's worth. And many of us were told, you better go to school, you better do this, and you better make a name for yourself. And we were told that as if we were going to be the headliners in life's drama. You know, we were told that. He asked another question. He said, what happens when the sweet life that you and me imagined proved to be sour? He says, when our expensive toys or those things that you work real hard to obtain break, or your work in life is no longer needed, and your bodies grow old and slow and soft. He says, what's next when all your efforts to take care of number one leaves you feeling unsatisfied, and the thrills we were promised turned up to be empty? Something to think about, isn't it? What Max Lucado was trying to get us to understand, that lie that we was told to take care of yourself, you're uno number one, that we all bought into it at some time in life and we believe that. He wrote this book that it's not about you. And so then he says that if you and I, if we set our sights on a different goal, because if we were purposed and destined by God, that if we would set our sights on a different goal, that's the way that we're supposed to function in this life properly, because the other way is not going to work.
That's right.
We call them self-centered, arrogant people. You know some of them? And though most of us, you don't like self-centered, arrogant people, but those are people who think that they're all of that. What would really happen? This is a question I'm proposing to you. What would really happen if we all took our place and played our parts? If we start living like sun reflectors. You get that? Rather than individual stars. All right, I want this to soak real good. Live like sun reflectors and not individual stars. If every one of us in the building, every person here with purpose in their heart, that their and your priority will become a divine pursuit and not a performance. Oh my God, a divine pursuit, not a performance. What would this place look like in this church, in the body of Christ, in your community, in your job? What would it look like? So then, again, God's called out people are extensions of his kingdom in earth. Yes. I want you to get that. God's only legal representation in earth. I don't want you to forget that either. A people of his destiny, don't forget that. Bearing his name and his image and his nature. And the called out people, and I hope you're one of them, grows in meaningful, eternal, and covenantal relationship with God and one another. What's it called? It's called a undivided life. That's what it's called. These called out people, if you will, you want to know what they're called? They're called the church. Not the church as we know the church. But within the church, there is a church. That's right. That's right. That's why I'm saying I hope you know who you are and where you're sitting. There's one thing with being in the church, but there's another thing to be in the church.
That's right. That's right.
The remnant church, if you will. And so then, if we're sitting in the right seat and we're not just in the church, but we're in the church, then that tells me that we have somewhere gotten over ourselves and realized that it ain't about me. Then the next thing, the next challenge we have to deal with, I'm hoping I'm helping somebody today. The next challenge that we must deal with is that we have to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. Because we live in a potentially hypnotizing world. This world that we live in is constantly in fight for our undivided life.
That's right.
It might be easy to say, oh, I live an undivided life, but your practices tell us different. It's not as easy as you think, but it is achievable. Our hearts, this is where we're sitting right now. This is where the struggle is in the body of Christ, because our hearts are tugged in so many different directions. Around every corner are new distractions, fighting for our attention. Can you agree with that? Yeah. So many things that could deflect our time and energy away from loving God. Every day we come face to face with enticements to try to get you to leave the highway of holiness and walk on another path. I know I'm telling the truth.